Like many of you, I have always found a really deep sense of pride learning all about the lore and rich history of Star Wars.
How do you know the ways of the Force?
My mentor taught me everything about the Force, even the nature of the dark side.
Now, one of the most prevalent comments that I see about Star Wars from the community, and I guess myself, is this. Please, Disney, bring back the best Legends elements into canon. Please, just don't scrap everything so that it can continue to grow and not just be true from
a certain point of view.
Now, the good news is Disney is literally peppering the old expanded universe throughout the new canon in sometimes subtle ways and some that are definitely going to shock you, as I was when I researched and made this video, in places you really wouldn't expect. I like to believe that this means they're listening to the community and putting our favorite elements back in. Disruptor rifles were one of my absolute favorite weapons in Star Wars Jedi Knight series because it destroys your victim on a molecular level. And I think the fact that it always reminded me of Darth Vader's line,
"I want them alive. No disintegration."
As you wish.
That kind of just sold me, you know? So it was a tough pill to swallow to see them fade into obscurity and no longer be canon. However, blink and you'll miss it, the T7 Ion Disruptor Rifle made its first appearance in Droids in Distress in the first season of Star Wars Rebels.
Carabas.
Whoa! They're T7 Ion Disruptors. These were banned by the Senate. You can short-circuit an entire ship with these.
That's not why they were banned.
Now, although this weapon was an ion-based version, more aimed at disabling ships, it is later, somewhat horrifically revealed, the rifles would also have destructive effects when used on organic life forms. They were indeed responsible for the near extinction of the Lasat species, and their destructive powers led the Imperial Senate to ban their use within the Galactic Empire.
Oh, I can make some beautiful music with these. They're not that kind of instruments. You just have to know how to play them.
Speaking of Star Wars Rebels Season 1, you might have picked up two things.
Letting go? Rather hold on if you don't mind.
The writer's obsession with Loth Cats and Meiloorun fruit. Now, I actually thought it was just conjured up just for Rebels, it sounded like a melon, and it was just put around Lothal as the staple food of the people.
Hey, you don't have any Meiloorun's, do you?
Meiloorun actually originates from X-Wing Wedge's Gamble, a Star Wars Legends novel written by Michael A. Stackpole and released in 1996. Now, what is interesting is it wasn't some huge mainstay in Rebels, it was only briefly mentioned in one novel, which I like to believe showcases the Rebels writer's true fandom of the expanded universe.
My life.
Meiloorun's.
How much for the whole crate?
I'm sorry, they're already sold.
So this one's a little tricky, but remember in A New Hope, Grand Moff Tarkin agreed to Vader putting a tracking beacon on the Millennium Falcon, letting the rebels escape to track them to their base, crushing the rebellion once and for all.
You're sure the homing beacon is secure aboard their ship? I'm taking an awful risk, Vader. This had better work.
Well, Kraken's Rebel Field Guide was a supplement for Star Wars the role-playing game published by West End Games in 1991, and first identified it as an XX-23 homing beacon. Now, Kraken's Rebels Field Guide was now a Legends book that details the workings of the Rebel Alliance against the Galactic Empire. So they took something canon, like a homing beacon in A New Hope, then they filled out its lore and gave it structure to be used in the expanded universe. But with the EU gone, it reverted back to just one line from A New Hope.
They let us go. It's the only explanation for the ease of our escape.
Easy? You call that easy?
They're tracking us.
Not this ship, sister.
Until Star Wars Rebels episode Gathering Forces. It was reintroduced into canon from scrapped Legends back in the early 90s, coming full circle. Okay, yes, I know. It's now officially canon inception.
We are receiving a signal from the tracker. They will not be able to outrun us for long.
I still sense the Jedi and his Padawan within my grasp. audience with your leaders.
It'll be your funeral.
Prince Caesar's species was first mentioned in Shadows of the Empire, with the cult villain Prince Caesar himself being the head of a criminal organization known as the Black Sun, and later his species was featured throughout Star Wars, the Falleen. Now, it was during the Clone Wars TV series, the criminal syndicate known as the Black Sun was run by a cabal of Falleen nobles.
We seek an army.
Fools.
So they were brought in. Now, although Prince Caesar is yet to resurface, that nod alone has at the very least kept the Falleen appearing in canon in various media, and that is something that Star Wars likes to do. They may not use it, completely, but they will do the nods and show you that they are aware of the source material, and they're bringing it back somewhat with their own twist on it.
This is your last opportunity to join us.
Quiet. We are the Black Sun.
Very well then.
One of the most brought up comments in regards to canon I see is in regard to the Old Republic. Now, fans of Knights of the Old Republic series obviously appreciated its rich lore and want to see some, if not the bulk of its glory, restored and canonized. This seems to be happening piece by piece, because the beauty of the Old Republic was that it's not really messing with the timeline. If you look at the new canon, it starts at Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and obviously the Old Republic is thousands of years before, so it doesn't really upset the new timeline.
Finally, we have returned.
Now, although Revan was literally a hair away from being put into a Clone Wars episode, we've had some nods since.
Was Darth Bane and Darth Revan, both of who existed in the EU. So it was going to be a big deal to bring these kind of legendary Sith Lords into Clone Wars, and thus, into the world of the George Lucas Star Wars story. We designed them. They are in the Clone Wars style. We modeled them in the Clone Wars style. And we shot the scene in the episode. The scene exists, but it never made it into animation. It only existed in layout.
Meter Gascon stated, "There's no way in Meiloorun," in Star Wars The Clone Wars episode, Missing in Action. And now it's insane to think that him saying one tiny line brought Meiloorun, the planet of the similar name from KOTOR 2, into canon. Then in Rebels, it was expanded upon greatly. Meiloorun was explored with a Sith temple on its surface, no less. Now, as we know, having nods to KOTOR with the inhabitants of the planet being wiped out in a similar fashion. Now, there was also an inclusion of a KOTOR Hammerhead class ship. 3 KOTOR nods slowly bringing back elements for the fans, though somewhat subtle, all very welcome additions, and I hope to see them delve even deeper into its rich history with Season 3's inclusion of an ancient female Sith Lord.
No, that's not what I wanted!
Speaking of Season 3's ancient Sith Lord, did you know that Sith holocrons were no longer canon? Surprised?
Oh my god!
Yeah, so was I. For the uninitiated, a Sith holocron was a device used by the Sith to store information. Typically, they require use of the dark side to activate, and it was a massive way to keep their heritage and their teachings alive. But let's be fair, we've seen a lot of the Jedi side of things in canon and legends, so it's fantastic to explore things like Sith Lords' backstories, their holocrons, teachings, and philosophies. Now, in Twilight of the Apprentice, holocrons made their official canon debut, and we got to see an ancient Sith temple as well. Now, this definitely is a welcome direction for the series as a whole, and something I also found really fascinating was the writing we see on the temple. It's called Force Script. Now, as it was in Ralph McQuarrie's art from A New Hope, and it seems to be open to the dark side and the light. It's like a Force version of writing that I guess only Force users can read or activate, as we see Ezra do, and it's also seen on the Jedi Temple on Lothal, so it's not actually just dedicated to the light side or the dark, but the Force as a whole.
A Jedi here? Why have you come to this dark place, Jedi? Why disturb my sleepless rest?
Aren't you excited? We're going to be Jedi! Learning the ways of the Force, building a lightsaber.
Of course, you already have one. I'm gonna get one of those stupid training sabers and
I wouldn't worry about that.
Training lightsabers, I remember seeing them in Jedi Academy and thinking, whoa, that makes sense that they would train with a saber that couldn't kill or maim people. Well, we've seen training lightsabers in canon being used by the Jedi younglings in the temple in episode 2, before Anakin goes batshit crazy.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
Commonly, they were thought to just be low-powered sabers. Now, training lightsabers are also known as training sabers or practice sabers. They were actual lightsabers that possessed a highly intensified electromagnetic containment field, which is far more difficult to penetrate than that of a standard lightsaber. What that means is, it formed a blade which was better contained and able to do less damage and result in welts, bruises, and minor burns instead of amputation or death. So basically, the containment field that kept the lightsaber stable, the better it was, the less damage it did. So that means that Kylo Ren's lightsaber must freaking tear through everything, because that thing looked like it was about to blow apart. Now, that was actually from Legends, the description I read, and somewhat it stands. However, in canon, they've now shown that some standard lightsabers like Canon and Ezra's are capable of a dual setting. They just turned their own lightsaber onto training mode and used it instead of having dedicated training sabers, which opens up for more settings to be explored that we've seen in Legends like dual length or multiple crystals, etc.
Younglings, a visitor we have.
Hello, Master Obi-Wan.
Hello.
When I think of the card game Sabacc, I think of Lando Calrissian, Han Solo gambling over the Falcon, in which Han famously wins his beloved ship, although in Empire Strikes Back, any mention of it was officially cut from the film. This was expanded upon heavily in Legends, especially in a trilogy of Lando Calrissian novels published in 1983 explaining the mechanics of the game. So thankfully, it was made canon just by a reference in the Star Wars Visual Dictionary. Outside of that though, in canon material, Sabacc was first mentioned in Rebels' novel A New Dawn, and then with Lando's appearance in Rebels, inevitably we saw Sabacc, although interestingly in 1989, a playable set of Sabacc cards was included in a role-playing game module called Crisis on Cloud City. The designs of these cards seen in the episode were inspired by that set.
Not so fast. It appears I have an idiot's array. Which makes you, well...
And what does that make you?
Name's Calrissian. Lando Calrissian. Now please, introduce me to my new droid.
One character alone can cause a massive fan base to form. And that, of course, is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Not his Legends title of Grand Admiral, which is still yet to be reinstated into canon, but more his species, the Chiss. Their blue-skinned, red-eyed beings, to me, are as much Star Wars as Cantina music is. So, with countless appearances in literature, lore, and video games, just to name a few, it stuns me to say the only place the Chiss have appeared in any capacity whatsoever since Disney took over is in the mobile game Star Wars Commander. That's right, a mobile game is what you have to thank for bringing the Chiss into canon.
Trulies? Trulies. Wait here. I get them for you.
Never trust a bartender with bad grammar.
The Inquisitorius was an organization established by Emperor Palpatine, and it consisted of agents referred to as Inquisitors tasked with hunting down Jedi who managed to survive Order 66.
Finally, I get to wipe your putrid taste from the Force.
The concept is insane. The last of the Jedi are relentlessly hunted by dark side users, and there was over 30 of them, ranging from Grand Inquisitors, High Inquisitors, all the way down to apprentices. This was outside of the Sith. Regardless, a notable force to be reckoned with, and their stories were absolutely captivating in Legends. I was such a massive fan of the Dark Jedi, Jarek's history from Dark Forces, or Bracca's from Legends, so this was massive. How do you start fresh with Inquisitors and not piss the fans off who have had a bounty of lore already established?
A pity. Then you will die.
Enter the Grand Inquisitor from Star Wars Rebels.
Your devotion to your master is admirable, but it will not save you. Nothing can.
The highest known in the Order so far. He paved the way for the rest. What is genius about his recent inclusion is that not only is he a rich story character, but the fact that the Clone Wars was tied in, showing his fall to the dark side after being a temple guard, already appearing in canon, and a clear logical path to show how he fell or was seduced by Palpatine and served as a relentless Jedi hunter in Rebels and then trained others under him. I mean, it's such a great nod. The Inquisitors were one of my favorite things. Like I said, the dark side is so much fun to explore, so I was very happy with what they've done with the Grand Inquisitor. I can't wait to see more.
You have no idea what you've unleashed here today. There are some things far more frightening than death.
The beauty of this video is it's just the start of the discussion. I love for Star Wars, it surrounds and it binds us together, so let me know in the comments below, what do you want to see made canon, as I'm taking ideas for an upcoming canon wishlist video where we kind of just say, hey, I want this to be canon, Disney, listen to us, these legends need to come back. Because if you love Star Wars, I want to talk to you about it. It's as simple as that. If you want to stay up to date with the latest Star Wars videos on origins, games, and theories, don't forget to use those force powers of yours and hit subscribe. And hey, leave a comment below about what you want to see in future videos. It may just get covered. Thanks for watching, and may the force be with you. Always.
Noble Jedis, not in the faces. Reload's office is on higher levels. Follow the garbage collectors.